got a lot of sass in her for sure. So, but with that being said, why don't we get started? Thank you everyone for joining us tonight on our 3 Plus Me. This is a special night tonight. It is Sunday instead of Saturday. We are going to be talking about learning tarot. About 6 months ago, my partner Grizz and we talked about putting together a tarot academy to learn about tarot, to learn how to read the cards. And I've kind of put it off for a little bit. I've been meaning to get myself a deck to be more familiar with it. And a couple of days ago, I was blessed with not one, not two, not three, not four, but 7 decks altogether, including one I got from a good friend of mine, Misty. Misty, if you're watching this, my Ascension card. So I counted today. I have now 7 decks. And of course, one of them was the Rider White. So I've asked one of our community members, someone who I have the highest respect for. Uh, Sassy, it'll make sense when we get started. She said, "Can we see Annie's face?" So we'll
Sorry.
go ahead. We'll go ahead and make sure we make some introductions and stuff. But where I wanted to learn tarot, and it is something that I've kind of been interested in for a few years. I've seen a lot of people in our community who are able to read tarot. I understand there are many different ways of reading tarot, many different interpretations. Um, I think no.
No.
Okay. We're gonna squash that.
It's
You're
okay.
gonna
We'll get
correct me
into
on
it.
that. You're gonna correct me on that. But I believe maybe the word I'm looking for is
Intuitively,
style.
there's different ways.
Intuitively.
Intuitively. But there's one system. And that system is the tarot system,
Okay, we're gonna
which is
get into
what you are
that.
all gonna learn.
I've asked Annie to come and be one of our tutors. So they we are actually taking registration for people who want to learn tarot. We will have 6 different instructors. It'll be a 6 month process. You think it's hard for yourself? Well, we'll see. We'll see. We're going to do a little bit
We
of
always think that.
introduction.
Everyone always thinks that. So that's
I think
common.
I think it's going to be something hard for me to understand. I even made notes on stuff, but we'll see.
Everything
We'll see what happens.
new is always hard in the beginning, or it seems hard in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, with that being said, I want to introduce our first tutor, our guest tonight. She has been on. This is her 5th time, so she holds the record of being our guest here on 3 Plus Me. The only elephant in
Man,
the
time
room,
flies.
I tell you. But it's all been some great times, great
You're a lot of fun, Luca. What can I say?
times. I gotta get used to that. Uh, our guest tonight, Aim Readings on Instagram, also her YouTube channel, guys. If you haven't been checking out her YouTube channel, she's been coming up with some newer, different things, fun stuff that you're not going to see on Instagram. Follow her, please, if you are not following her yet. But our guest tonight is Annie G. Aim Readings. Welcome back. Thank you for being here
Hi,
tonight with us.
Luca. Thank you
Hello.
for that beautiful introduction.
Hey, only certain people get that kind of introductions. Only the
I
VIP get
appreciate
that.
you.
Yeah. All right. So
So, okay. So I don't know how much. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get through the major arcana today. Okay. Now,
perfect.
I'm gonna try. Usually, tarot classes go with, one class is like the majors, one class is the minors, another class is dedicated to all the symbolism, another class is dedicated to all the colors. Now, what I will say, you don't really need to learn the colors all that much. That's not set in stone because, as you see, tarot cards vary so different in colors nowadays, and so that's not a set in stone. What we're going to learn, though, with me, what you're going to be learning is the entire tarot system and how it works. And there's only one tarot system. So like how oracle cards, it's like you can read it however you want. But the tarot is one set system and there's no getting out of it. And that's why it's the tarot and not an oracle card. That's why there's, the 78 cards, the 22
Mhm.
majors. And so it's very important. So it has a huge history too, and I have some special decks here for you guys that I keep this away in my emergency bag area, like with all my because I have historical tarot decks, okay, that are actual museum reprints and stuff, and so that's put away in case there's an earthquake and we need to run in and get out. Those are one of the things that's to be grabbed, but.
Gotcha.
So I have a little bit of the history and dates. I have a lot of notes that I dedicated a lot of time to writing down for all of you to make sure that, I don't get too flustered because there's so much to get into. And so I just wanted to make sure I have notes here. And even like writing the notes, I was getting like, as I was writing, I was like, wait, you know what? No, that's going to be too confusing for right now. Let me take that out. And then, let me add that in. It's just like so much, It's like, where the hell do you begin?
Hey, I gotta tell
So
you, I'm
I was
gonna
like,
score points with
yep,
score points with the teachers. There's all my notes. 30
yep,
pages of notes
yeah.
right there. Okay.
Tarot, that's one of the beautiful things about the tarot. When you start learning, it's a lifelong
Mm,
journey. So that's the beauty of it. But
mm.
So I wanted to just share a little bit of the history to begin
Okay.
with. So the tarot decks that have been found, the oldest ones, date back to 1395, which is Visconti Madrone Tarot. Okay, and this was for the Visconti family in Milan, Italy. And back then, the tarot was not publicly available. Back then, it was only for like the kings and queens and things like that. And the cards were very big. Okay, I'm trying to pull them out. They were very big and they were all in silver and gold. So, can you imagine how heavy these decks must have been? Look at how big they were.
Wow.
The ones in the museum are a little bigger. So, the original ones that were found by archaeologists are a little bigger. So imagine this freaking big thing, and all the majors are in gold. And back then it was real gold, and the minors were all in silver. I thought that was really beautiful. But I mean, the reading was completely different. As you can see, this is the Fool. Okay. And this is the magician. Back then, the magician was not known as what we know him as now. He was known as a trickster, someone who was just trying to play people, So you can see how different these cards were from what we see today. Okay. Now, after this deck though came, then let me just put this aside. Then came the the which one was it? I have it written down. The Charles II, the sixth tarot. Okay. And that deck I do not have, but that's the deck that came after, which was later in the 1400s. And then came this next one that I'm trying to pull out, which is the Solabusca. And this one came out later, I have it written down, 1490s. And this Solabusca is what Pixie, Pamela Coleman Smith, who is the art creator of the Rider-Waite Smith, is where she got her artwork ideas from when she went and visited the museum in England. England? No, Britain? Britain? I don't know, it's in Europe somewhere.
Yes. So,
But that's
over
where she
there.
got her,
Yeah, the
right?
other
It's over
side
there
of the
somewhere.
pond. Yeah.
So this is the Solabusca deck. This is the Fool card here, and these are the Magician, and I mean it's so different, but this
Yeah.
is where she got her inspiration from. And these were all like pip decks though. So after this became popular, this is pretty much the Busca is what became mainly popular with the community. And it's also around the time where it starts becoming like very popular to be reading. And at that time, it's actually still controversial whether it was used still for just playing terms or if it was still used for divination yet. So that's still to be told. But by the time the Sola Busca was found, This one is the for sure full 78 cards, full encryption and everything of like, okay, this was used for divination purposes type of a thing. So anytime before that, we don't know for sure. And so that's the question in hand. So after the Solabusca, then came the Marseille deck, which you will see as we go. It's the deck that I use. It's from the 16th century. It actually came in the late 15th century. It's the oldest decks that are still in print that are being used by people. A lot of people use this deck. And this came in a lot of varieties, but there's a lot of people who are doing the remakes of them because the older ones of course are no longer available. So there's like the Jean Noblet, it's a small edition, the Jean Dodel, that came out as a reproduction in the 17th century. The one I use is by a man named Vincent Petici. He's really great. He made his he's been reading cards for 30 plus years, and he made his about, I think, before COVID or during COVID. I'm not sure, but sometime during then. So that's like, this is the oldest one you'll see like in circulation. And then after that, then we see the Golden Dawn era, where it's a secret organization that Rider-Waite and Crowley were in, and then we see the Rider-Waite Smith deck, and then we see the Thoth deck come out. So that is pretty much the like order of the tarot's history and how it came from. And in the 18th century, the tarot, that's when tarot was given occult associations. This was, now I have to read this because it's by name. So it's by Jean-Baptiste Allier in 1738. Around then, that's when he was the first person to make a pamphlet to actually say like what card means what. So that little book that comes with your decks nowadays, he was the first one to make that.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then the one who actually made it popularity, like known as a divination tool aside from the royals, just normal people like me and you, everyday, people, was Court de Jebelin. I'm like butchering his name, but he's the one who started, using claims like it was always used for divination, and that's where the claims where tarot originated in Egypt came from. There's also no historical data to actually support that, or yet anyway. As far as we know so far, until we see any other decks pop up, there's so much of ancient Egypt we still have yet to
Yeah.
discover, so we don't know. But so far, it originated in Italy. Those are the decks that I just said were the originals found by archaeologists and historians. So, I mean, I just wanted to give you guys a little information. And also, throughout time, the Marseille deck that I use, the images are actually the same as the Solabusca, pretty much almost identical. And you'll be able to see like the varieties. And as I talk about meanings, what Rider-Waite did is he changed the numbers. So how we're going to learn how to read today is like, and for the minors when we get to it, is going to be the meanings of the cards, but also with numerically, because that's just the whole system within itself. And what Waite did is he changed the numbers of the 8 and the 11, which is the strength card and the justice card. And he switched them up. But he's the only one who did that. Every other deck in existence is not like that. The justice is 8 and the strength is 11, because numerology wise that is just what makes sense. And I guess there's been astrologers who said that, because I'm not an astrologer, so I don't know, but astrologers have said that that makes more sense. So I'm like, okay, I wonder why,
Mm-hmm.
like why he changed that, but I'm sure it has something to do with the Golden Dawn, that secret organization that they were in. I'm sure it had something to do with that. Because that's where a lot of the artwork came from. Pamela Coleman Smith herself was also a member. So I'm sure it came from that organization of their beliefs of something. So I'm going to start getting into the tarot if you guys don't have any
I have to say something real
questions.
quick.
No, go for it.
Thank you for doing all of that research. That is a lot of research. That is a lot of years, that's a lot of decks, a lot of knowledge. Listening to the history lesson that you just gave, I noticed that the names are so European. I don't
Hmm.
hear names that are North American or South American. I believe maybe we had our own different kinds of divination tools, but
No, you're
to
right.
know that this is very European, the history of it, the origins of it, and the people who uh, I don't know if they evolved it or transformed it or changed it or made their own versions of it. We're all in Europe. It's just interesting that it's in that
Oh yeah,
part of
it
the
went.
world.
Yeah, it all went like handed down by trade, and then it wasn't allowed for divination, and then so it was done like low key. So it's like, it's really interesting. Once you actually dive into it, it's really
I
interesting.
can you imagine. You talked about that one deck that was made with real gold and silver. Uh, I believe in history, even now, gold and silver is meant to be something that's very important, very valuable, very rare. Um, Maybe it was used by a court jester for an emperor or king and wanting to, all right, jester, we need to find out something about the villagers and what decisions I need to make.
Yeah.
And the court jester would give him a reading with some form of tarot. Maybe those types of cards that are made of silver and gold. And I can just kind of envision that and say, wow, that's just unreal, you know?
Yeah, like being like a spiritual worker back then, it was really dangerous too, because these royal families and stuff, they had a lot of power and control, and there was wars, and they actually would like hold people locked up, you know, and only allow them to come out for divination purposes for wars and things like
Oh
that.
man.
So it gets pretty fucked up too. Like it gets really messed up too. But I mean, history is history,
Yeah,
right? I mean, it
yeah,
happens
yeah.
everywhere around the world, honestly. So, but yeah.
Sorry for the
Hey, but
sidetrack.
for before we like continue, and if there's anyone who like is wanting to like, do your thing, learn and study, you have a notebook, have a pen, and have your major arcana. Okay, so which is the Fool to the World card, okay, put out in front of you in order, okay, if you can, so that you can actually see like what we're talking about and see like if we point things out, you can see it and also understand the process also. You can like, kind of have it laid down. You learn so much by just laying out the cards in front of you on how their story. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm imagining that one card actually there's a segue between the cards. Go from one card to the next to the next.
Oh yeah,
And they all
for
kind of
sure.
intermingle with each other,
Oh
which
yeah.
is why they're done that way and stuff. Okay, there's
Yeah, for
Grizz.
sure.
She's here. I did actually split my deck, so if you do have your own deck, I'm using this one tonight, one of the decks that I did receive. If you do have your own deck, if you would take out your major arcana cards, I believe it's split up into two, and like Annie said, lay them in front of me. So I don't have enough space to lay it in front of me, but I do have the cards separated, and I'll be
Whatever
going
works.
through it. And I also will be taking notes as well. Besides the 30 pages of notes I made on each card, I went through what each card meant. I went to what each the well anyway the meanings behind each of it.
Yeah.
But okay, that's okay, Grizz. I'm glad that you're here. If you have your card and you have some time, you want to come on screen, of course, just ask. We are going to just start now. We went through some history. Amber was here a little bit early. We did get to talk to her. It's so nice to see her. Grizz, if you'd like to join, please do so. And with that, Annie?
All right. All right, you guys, let's talk some tarot. All right. So, first, I'm going to say, as you do have the cards laid out in front of you, always pay attention where are they facing? What do their personalities look like? What's the energy you get from that specific card? What's the message it's trying to give you? The surrounding cards around it, things like that, okay? So, like, are they looking, so the left side, if they're looking towards the left, that's always the past. If they are looking to the right, that is always the future. Are they, so it's like, look at that. Are they looking to the past? Are they looking at the, the future? Or are they looking dead at you? Are they looking at the problem at hand? Straight ahead. So pay attention to these things. Are they sitting down, which is being a little bit, less aggressive, more passive? Or are they standing up, which is ready for action? Pay attention to those body languages in the cards, and that's also why I recommend staying away from those foo-foo decks, like the gummy bear shit and stuff like that. Like, I can't okay, like, no offense to the artists or anything, but this isn't, maybe artists like that, it's better for oracles, but not the tarot. Okay, because like gummy bears and stuff are not going to give you the deeper spirituality, the meanings that you need in your guidance.
They might be a great
Maybe
snack, but
oracles.
not for tarot.
Oracles. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean they're cute and everything, but yeah, maybe oracles, not the tarot. But
Also,
yeah, pay attention to
before
those
we go
things.
on,
Yeah,
Annie,
go for
I'm
it.
sorry. Before we go on, please know that um, tarot is meant to be a form of entertainment here tonight. That we're actually, I'm curious. I want to learn, but it is
We
meant
always
for
have to
entertainment
disclose
purposes
that.
only. It is not meant to give you answers, like yes or no answers for something that you might have coming up. It's not meant to give you any type of healing for health wise or anything like that. We are simply learning tonight. We are simply using these cards for entertainment purposes. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you for letting me do that, Annie.
Thank you for doing that. We
We got
always
to
have
cover
to
our
do those
bases.
disclosures.
Yeah, we got to cover
So,
our
okay, so with
bases.
that said, actually, that was good because that actually gets me to the next thing too. So, the tarot, the tarot is a guide. The tarot is not there to, forget about Hollywood movies. Okay, like going to a tarot reader and be like, when am I gonna die? Or when is, I don't know, like impossible things. That's not the tarot. The tarot is a guide, and the choices you make will always change your reading.
Okay.
So whatever, when you walk away from a tarot reading, that's because you're trying to get some guidance. That's why whenever you go and you go to a tarot reader and you just say, "Oh, give me a general reading." Well, mo- almost all of the readers I know will tell you I don't do general readings. And I've been told that I need to start doing that, which I do need to start doing that because everyone comes and they just say, "Oh, it's just a general reading." Well, don't you want guidance for something? I mean, we have so many questions for anything in life. And so you need direction. It's giving you direction towards your
Mm-hmm.
question at hand. So if you don't have a question at hand, that direction is going to be just about anything or general, and you're just going to have a general reading. And then you're going to be like, oh, you're not really going to be as happy with it, wondering why. And that's why. Because you need to have specific guidance. What's your specific question? What do you need guidance on? And when you get that reading and you walk away, if you don't choose to act upon those things that the cards were trying to guide you on, that what you're getting from that reading will not happen. Again, things will change. Everything changes based on our decisions. Choosing to wake up an hour late or an hour earlier, might have a domino effect on other things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a domino. It's like a cause and effect of everything. So it's important to remember that too. And don't ever let people like laugh at you and let you think that, oh my God, what do you think that God gave us choices? Yeah, duh. Like, yes, we have choices. That's the one
Mm-hmm.
thing other than change that we
Yep.
are, that is set in stone for us, in
Mm-hmm.
our existence. So yes, it's all about the choices that we make. We can have all the guidance that we can have, but if we don't make those choices to go there and go in a different path, then that whole reading will change, and then you have to go back and get a separate reading again because everything just changed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
people don't realize that because they're just stuck in Hollywood scenes. They've seen too many movies. And
I
that's
think
okay,
too.
but.
I think too. you get a general reading and okay, so this is my experience in the past with people who have gotten general reading. When I was a moderator for another person who was doing readings, and we would do every other night, 5 or 6 people would do readings or receive readings, and sometimes it was the same people asking the same questions because the last night's answer wasn't the one they were looking for. So maybe
Yeah.
tonight the cards will be different, and 99.999% of the time the reading was the same. You know,
Yep.
and in general reading, if I was asking a question at a general reading and I didn't really hear the answer I was looking for or understand, then I would come up with more questions. So I think it makes
Hmm.
more sense for you to get a
Yeah.
specific reading than to get a general reading. That's
Oh
only
yeah.
taking more time out of your energy, my energy, and
Yeah.
instead of going straight to the issue itself or the question itself, we're doing a dance around the bush, and then we're going to go around the building here and down the parking
Exactly.
lot. You know, why go the route? Shortest
Exactly.
distance. Shortest
Exactly.
distance, right? Okay,
Exactly.
that's just my
Okay, so
input.
no, you're right though. Okay, you guys. So the tarot, the major, so what it's doing, the story, is the journey of our souls. Okay, I think I need to maybe bring the microphone closer, if that's possible. Can you hear me okay? Is the
Yes,
volume good? Okay,
yes.
okay, good. Okay, so it's the journey of our soul. It's the journey we take as human beings on this planet Earth. Okay, as we take every breath. That is the journey. And it's the journey of the fool. Okay, now the fool, I'm going to show you both the Rider-Waite and the Marseille. Now, the fool, as you see, is zero, all, infinite. Okay, the fool is nothingness, but he is everythingness. And that's the zero. Okay, it's complete potential, but also can be complete chaos. Okay,
Okay.
now the zeros are also about, of course, like I just said, just complete opportunities. Like it could be full of things coming in for you. It can be just opportunities flourishing, or a warning that you're being too hasty. You need to think things through more. Okay. You're going and you're taking that leap of faith way too much without thinking things clearly. And that is where you see the animal friend here. Okay. So that not only means loyalty in the deck, but it also can also stand for a warning for you. Okay, a warning that as you're taking that leap of faith, because the mountains in the background are also a challenge, right? An uphill. Things are not going to be very easy. So whenever you see mountains in the tarot, it's signaling to you some kind of you need to climb some kind of a hill. So things might be a little bit heavy. Things might not be easy, but things are going to be as they need to be for you. Okay, so that's where mountains come into play for you. But
Okay.
all of these messages here with the zeros, okay, so it's also, I just want to make sure I'm not remembering. It's also, okay, the wild card. And that's why it's the wild card in the tarot, okay, because of that zero. Okay, it's both things, okay, kind of like the world card, okay, like the world card here, it's like, it's also an ending, but that an ending of a cycle into a new beginning, kind of mimicking the fool with that end, and then now, okay, we're going back to the start, which is what we do in our lives. Like for
And the
example,
world card is actually in a little zero,
mhm,
right?
yes, yes. And that I'm gonna get to it, but
Okay.
so the world, it's like no gender, it's not like, and also with the temperance, they're supposed to be genderless. That's why it's supposed to be confusing. Is that a male? Is that a female?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's supposed to be a genderless figure, because at the end of the day, our souls have no gender. We are our soul being, and we don't have gender. We just are. We just are as our energies,
What is the
whatever
word
you want to
they
call
use
it.
for that? Androgynous? Is that the word they use for that? Neither
I don't
male
know.
nor female, or
Probably,
or having
yeah.
both
Probably,
male
yeah.
and female. You know. Um.
There you go.
So
Exactly.
if I'm
And that's
understanding
why
what you
you see
said,
that.
he's looking off. The fool is looking off to the left, which is the past, and also his face is turned away from the sun, where the sun could you light or guidance or
Mm-hmm.
answers maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not
Mm-hmm.
looking towards the source to find answers.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, whatever. Okay, and I don't mean to interrupt.
He said whatever.
I thought
No,
Marie's gonna
you're
go,
right.
well, you got the fool,
No, you're
but
right. That's what you
whatever.
need to do. That's what you need to do. That's the process. That's what you need to do as you look at these cards, as he's looking in the past. But he also has like, how you see like the little bag, that he
Mhm.
has, that is telling you that you have what you need to go on, start this journey, to go onto this path. And the sun, it's like you have that clarity shining light on you, but however, be careful of the warnings around you. Don't be
Mhm.
foolish as you take that leap of faith. And that's where, like, the dog, or I don't know, in the Marseille, to me, it looks like a cat. So I don't know if this is a whatever animal that is. It's like a warning sign. You know what I mean? So uh, that's where the zero comes. So that's where complete existence starts to be into being. That energy flow is starting to be that first step into being. Okay, not
Mhm.
yet creation, but being. That's where it begins. So, like I said, the nothingness, and it's also the infinite possibilities. It's the infinite possibility, and as you take that leap of faith, realizing, understanding, and remembering that you don't want to allow yourself to get into that chaos, even though it's a possibility. And
Okay.
then that takes you into the magician, which takes us into the number one in the tarot. And the number one, the first action oriented card here in the tarot. Okay, now this is where nothingness becomes something through action. Okay, through you doing something. Okay, this is like your intelligence as it grows, as you start taking your leap of faith. Your intelligence is growing here. Your force, you're mainly within your mind, but your force of all your creation, but mainly in your mind with the magician. Okay, and it's like a consciousness. It's like you're becoming aware of all of the things that you can grab onto. Okay, and that's what the magician is. When we get into from the fool to the magician, that's where we see that. And when you see these white lilies or flowers, the white, that's purity coming into light, pure consciousness, that purity coming into existence. The red flowers are the strength of growth, and his hands with the baton. Remember, batons like the wand. We're going to get into it when we get into the majors. There's a lot of things about the majors we're going to get into that's going to have to be a long live. Well, not too long, but yeah, there's a lot to cover there. But with the batons, remember the baton, it's something, not masculine, but it's like it's tension, it's like threatening. That's the word I'm trying to look for. It's threatening. Okay, so you can use that as a tool, okay, in your benefit, to either ward off or to protect. Okay, so it's a very powerful tool. And his hands being as above, so below is the reminder of exactly
Oh
that.
shit, I
As
see
above,
that.
so below. Yes, that's the exact idea of as above, so below being into play here, because it's important to remember that that is how all creation begins, and that is how we all start. That pure consciousness that I was talking about, that's that pure conscious awareness that there is coming away from, that not understanding to the understanding of that conscious level of connection between the earth realm and the spiritual realm. So that complete conscious awareness and like waking up is basically all what the magician is. And that is why he's pointing up and then pointing down. He's reminding you, as above, so below, as all creation, we're all one at the end of the day. So that's the, what else? What else? What else? Intelligence, awareness. Oh, yes, it can also be ego. Now, this is the magician is also a warning of your ego. Don't let your ego and your pride get the best of you as you are learning. Don't let that get in the way of your things. And also just remember to keep in your creativity. As you are growing into your intelligence. And that's very important as well. Now, numerology wise, it's all about new beginnings, fresh starts, creating your foundations with the number ones, okay? It's always in the future with number ones, okay? So even in the minors where it's like the the wands, the cups, the swords. So even that ones are always about just potentials and the future and what is to come. Okay, it's always beginnings of some kind. It's always going to be like new ideas, new energies, new ambitions, new thoughts. It's always going to be some kind of a new that's going on. All right, let me make sure we covered everything with the magician
And
before
I
I move
noticed on the
forward.
table there is one of each of the cups, the pentacles, the sword, and the wand. I think
Oh
that's
yeah, we're gonna
pretty
get
cool.
all into that probably in the next session.
Okay.
All right, and then from the magician, that is where we get into the high priestess, which is the number 2. Now, with the high priestess, you will see here, okay, these 2 pillars with the B and the J here, okay? Now, this has to do, okay, with the pillars of Boaz, okay? This is just a lot of occult, okay? So the B and the J is Boaz is for strength, and the Jachin is being established. And this is telling us that she is sitting in front of the Temple of Solomon, okay? And she's acting as basically the portal that we must pass to enter the mysteries within ourselves. So this is our inner wisdom, the inner mysteries, secrets, things that don't need to be told to everybody. Wisdom that's being contained within. Okay, so again, the temple that we talk about is yourself. You are the temple. Okay, so I
Okay.
want you to remember that. So when I say she's standing in front of the temple, she is a temple. So your body is the temple within. Okay, so this is where the polarities and dualities meet. Okay, this is where you start existing in silence and in your stillness. This is also where we come into devotions, okay? That higher consciousness of the mysteries, that higher knowing of how truly small we are in this universe, and just gaining all that wisdom, but acknowledging that not everything needs to be shared. Because also when you share things too much, it takes away from other people having their journey through that
Mm.
themselves. Now, you also see the crescent moon at her feet. The crescent
Yes.
moon is there to remember your intuition, okay? The crown above her head is the 3 symbols of Isis, okay? So this is all a huge goddess transformation, huge secret, wisdom, and just gaining wisdom internally, just doing learning and just being silent and realizing that there's things that you need to learn and there's things that you don't know yet. Let's see, what else. Oh, it's also about patience. As you learn, you need the patience, right? So yes, it's also about patience. And also number twos are about choices, duality, balance, things coming into pairs, okay, which also has to do with choices, okay? It's also all about how you perceive these choices, how you act upon these choices, all of those things. Those are all opportunities, and what you do with them. Those are what number 2s are. Tell me if I'm going too fast, okay?
No, I'm writing
If I
down
need to
as we
slow
go.
down, stop me. Be like, Annie, shut up and slow down, okay? Just
Annie, shut up and continue. How's
okay.
that? You're doing fine. You're doing
You
just
got
fine.
it.
Thank you.
And then now we get into the number 3, which is the Empress card. Now with the Empress card from here, we get into from the High Priestess, we get that wisdom, that inner growth, that consciousness that we were just talking about from her. And we get into this place of fertility and growth and remembering that we need grounding at the same time along with that. Okay. Along with that, it's the fertility of your imaginations coming into earth. Okay. It's also about our divine mother. Okay. It's also about earth itself. This could also be pertaining to health. Okay. Your health and, how you take care of your health, your awareness and your skills. Okay. With the unknown, being okay that there is an unknown that maybe you can't explain too much about. Okay. And also, so you guys can see the differences. Okay. And also, all right. So it's the ability, it's the ability for us to create our imagination into fertilization. And remembering that we need to do that by being grounded. And you see the flow, it looks like a waterfall coming down at the right side. And that's a reminder to keep with the flow. Go with the flow and stay grounded with your emotions. Don't get too overwhelmed as you are trying to fertilize and grow whatever it is that you are trying to grow and rebirth into the world. This is all about hard work and determination with the Empress. And also, this is also all about strength. It's also about drive and creating a normal. The stars are all the astrology. That's all the fixed signs, okay, on her head, which is saying that, she is that higher knowing, that higher subconscious that we get from the high priestess. You now have, and oops, sorry, I was backwards. I was holding the card like this. And you start getting that with the Empress card. You start getting into that fertility within that growth. And with threes are in numerology, threes are about creativity. It's big on creativity. Now, where that creativity falls in, the cards will always tell you. Creativity of the mind, creativity of spirit, creativity of yourself, creativity of your emotions, creativity of your ambitions and your endeavors. It's going to tell you. The cards will always tell you. Threes are also about things coming together, relationships, things expanding, so future, things growing. So thinking about that, being methodical about that. It's all about those things. Let's see, did I miss anything? Soul of nature, creativity, yes. And so as with that, it's also receptivity with the Empress. Okay, being receptive to these energies. You're learning. First, it was the leap of faith, and then it was getting our grounding to, wow, okay, I'm actually really strong and capable of getting shit started, right? And then now you're starting to fertilize and grow into whatever the strength is that you want to fertilize, which brings us into the number 4, which is the Emperor. Now, with the number 4, with the Emperor, this is about your leadership, your strength, having the strength to fall into your leadership, okay, not cutting corners. Like I said, pay attention when they're sitting down, standing up, where they're looking. He's looking dead at the issue, straight ahead, strong, ambitious, and you can tell he has armor on. He's ready for anything, okay, being ready for anything, okay, being able to be ready for anything, as in being accomplished and strong. And I am dropping cards. Hang on. Here we go.
They're
Sorry about that. So
jumping
being strong
already.
and here I am like, stop falling. Okay, so again, it's a big thing about stability, just like 4s are about stability, okay? And with that, like 4s are a big thing about stability, security. Creating your foundations and your structures are what the 4s are all about. And that's what the Emperor brings that in with your leadership, okay? And huge leadership here. Let me see if I'm forgetting anything. Nope. Just, yeah, huge leaderships, being able, because this is actually something very difficult for us to do. And as we go through this journey in our lives, now with the Empress, we see, okay, we want to accomplish and do something now. We need to work on it. We need to fertilize this. How are we going to do this? By standing your ground and knowing what you want and going for it through action, standing up and being the leader for yourself, because no one's going to do it for you. And that's what we learn in the Emperor moment here. Okay, so as we get into the Emperor, I just want to, before I get ahead, I want to make sure I don't forget anything. So yes, I have this written down. So I have it written down in like a occult way. So I hope, and it's kind of like to show you the soul's journey. So I hope it's making sense. So with the Emperor, it's also that form we were talking about with the Magician, that form that we start acknowledging into existence. That form starts projecting, okay, into reality through action and leadership. So that form within ourselves, whatever you want to call that. You want to call that your energy, you want to call that your being, you want to call that your kundalini, whatever you want to call it. That form is materializing. It's about that materialization, okay? Giving you the sense of time, tradition, cultures, and how to do things, okay? How to stand up for yourself and your sense of belonging. That is what the Emperor is. It's between spirit and matter, and all in between, and understanding all of that. So it's throughout your spiritual journey. And it's like you're understanding that we are all in some way, somehow, a channel and a vessel to spirit. It's also acknowledging that. Whoops. Sorry. I really hit the mic. So it's acknowledging that. So again, then the fours are all about numerology wise. It's all about stability, strength, foundation, all about, just making sure that your foundation is strong before moving forward. Because if your foundation is weak, you're going to have a tower moment. And, we're going to get into that. But, so you don't, you just want to make sure that what you're doing is good. And that's going to take time. That's not going to be in a process of rushing.
This can also be considered like a father card.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Also, your boss. It could also pertain to someone's boss.
Someone in authority.
Yeah. Yeah, someone in authority, okay. Definitely, exactly. Yes. A teacher even. That could even mean a teacher if it follows other cards. Again, the cards will always tell you. That sounds weird right now, I know. The first time I was told that years ago and I was starting in my journey, it's not easy. If you're very hard on yourself all the time. You're questioning yourself all the time. And I mean, at least I did, and I was not sure about myself when I started in my journey, so it's a process. And it's a process in trusting yourself too with the tarot. So it's like self-love in a way, when you work with your cards,
Thank goodness I had people like Annie G and Tina and others like even Cran to kind of pave the way for us in the beginning so that we don't have to travel that rocky road, that potholes and the mud holes and everything else.
The confusion and all the books and all the reading and all the confusion even more.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. So once we come out from the Emperor, okay, and we're starting to learn how to stand on our own, and how to stand in our strength, we get the Hierophant, the number 5s. Now, number 5s in numerology is a kind of a shakeup. Okay, it's something like, let me see. It's kind of like, how in the Fool. In the Fool, we were saying, be careful of that possible chaos. That 5 is the possible chaos coming into existence. Now, whether that possible chaos is a good thing or a bad thing depends on the journey. Whether that possible chaos is something big or small also pertains to your journey, and such things. And so number 5s, it's all about instability. It could be loss and, surprises, unexpected surprises, conflicts, petty conflicts. It's usually petty conflicts. It's nothing like hardcore. Okay, but I mean, it can be, but not really, not usually. It's usually something petty with the 5s, and along with that, it's like change. So along with like crises and chaos will come some kind of like change, right? And like having to get into a new normal, which that comes with the number 6s, which we'll get to. But with 5s, that whole that whole shake up of everything with the Hierophant. This also pertains a lot to. This is initially the decks were always in French or Italian. Like the older decks, they're like, if they do have writing, it's in French or Italian, and this is called the Pope. Now, people don't like to do that now, and they say the Hierophant because people are so, not everyone likes that. Not everyone likes that religious connotation. And so it was changed to the Hierophant, but it's initially known as the Pope. And then the High Priestess is initially known as the Popette. Because they go hand in hand.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is also why you see in the Hierophant about it being about religion and an actual pope and priest that you might have to go to, and that pope and priest might be a spiritual worker, you know what I mean? Whatever like that pope and priest means to you, if that's an actual pope and priest, then go, and if that's a spiritual worker, then a spiritual worker, but it's all about sticking to tradition, okay? And the staff in his hand here. This has an actual name, and I don't remember what it is, and I apologize. But the staff that he holds, that's to show his authority. That's a sign of authority, and what he's doing with his fingers is a sign of wisdom, outward. Okay, so that is the Pope giving outward wisdom. That's what that
So it'd be
sign
like
means. Okay.
spiritual wisdom.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Higher learning, higher knowing. Exactly. And the keys on the bottom, that's also the wisdom. Keys always mean wisdom.
Okay.
Wisdom of some kind. Keys will always mean wisdom of some kind, no matter what. Always wisdom. And now I want you to also pay attention now to the Hierophant. Let me just get her out before I continue. Where are you, priestess? Now pay attention to how, I said the priestess, which was the pulpit, and the Pope, which is the Hierophant, they go together in the tarot. So just like they have like correlations, just like who else? The Empress and the Emperor. The Empress is the internal, the grounding nature, where the Emperor is the outward leadership. And just like that, with the Hierophant, it's the High Priestess. And you can see that and that's why I wanted you guys to have all of this laid out. Because when you actually lay the cards out like that, you can see the similarities and which card goes with what, because you can see it. Like look, they are both between the pillars.
Yeah. Okay. I see that.
Between that higher wisdom, that higher learning I was saying, and so this is just inward, like, I told you guys within, and this is outwards. Are you getting, is this too much, Luca?
No. No, it's making
I don't, I
sense.
don't want, I don't want to be like information overload.
No,
Okay. So
not even. I want
I
more.
know
Are
it's a
you kidding
lot.
me?
Yeah, I know it's a lot. I know.
I tell you, this
So
Gemini wants more. I want more. I keep wanting more. So that's good.
I'm
That's
trying
good.
to give, I'm trying to like do the lesson by numerology, symbolism, and the system all in one. So like
See
usually
the
people
pattern.
would need to go to a class for each and pay for each class. Instead, I'm just trying to knock it out, which spiritual community isn't gonna like it, but whatever. Sorry, not sorry.
What do you?
But
What did you say this meant? Wisdom?
this is the outer wisdom that is
Outer wisdom.
given. So
Okay.
the from yes, like the spiritual wise, from the beings that we don't understand. Like how for example, people believe that the Pope is the only one who can do like anything spiritual or with any spirits. No one else can, and that's where that comes from. So I know nowadays we don't think that, but that's where it comes from. So like the tarot is always going to mimic the society of its time. As you saw, how different those other decks looked, the older
Hmm.
actual, like, the first ones. Because to us it's so different, but that's because it follows how society is. Like, look like at our society, look at how the Rider-Waite-Smith decks have all come into. Look how many different styles there are. So it always goes within society. So it always follows. So that's also something to keep in mind. Now, with that higher learning and wisdom, before I continue, let me make sure I did not forget anything important here. Yeah, I said this is tradition, right? I did bring up to stick with tradition with the
Yep.
higher font, right?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, so that's definitely tradition. Okay, in the
Spiritual
sense,
wisdom, tradition, conformity, morality, and
yes.
I think the other one
It's
was ethics.
it's like spirit and matter combined and getting that wisdom from that person, and now with this it's also coming into kind of like how I see it is also the person, this client would probably need to also work on being more humble and allowing themselves to learn from others. You know what I mean? Because again, like all the cards that are looking dead ahead at you are really big cards. Oops, sorry, I just bumped the mic. They're big cards that are looking dead at you at the problem. They're like looking at you. They're not, they're not profile. They're like, it's like set in stone, like listen,
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
There-
So
There's
once
more
we
of
gain
a
that.
I don't know if it's the right word is ego to this card,
Hmm.
if I
Yeah,
may say.
dropping your ego to learn from someone else. Because if you're stuck in your ego, and you're learning to do that in the magician. I said being careful of that ego, and you learn how to drop all of that in that process. So by the time you get to this higher font, you're able to gain that higher wisdom from other people. Because
Okay,
it's
yeah.
important to always remember that, we don't know everything. There's always something to learn from someone else.
Hmm.
So it's very important to remember that. And so that higher wisdom, that higher learning, whatever that could be for that person, and again, like this could also be a teacher. And this can also pertain to a teacher or something, or someone to learn from. This can also, but definitely some kind of a higher, like if it's like a teacher, it would be someone, like in a higher grade, maybe someone with their PhD or something. This is some kind of a higher institution of learning with the higher font. It's not like something thing. Oh, and another thing I forgot to mention about the majors versus the minor arcana. So arcana means secrets, okay, or things to be revealed. That's what that means. I don't know what language that's in, but that is what it means. And that is what they're called in the tarot, majors, minors. And the majors, which is what the major arcana, which is what we are going through right now, these are fixed messages. These are the messages that cannot be changed. So all the minors are things that we have control over. These majors are things that are going to happen whether we like it or not, and we don't have control over these things as much as we do with the minors. This is very limited control that is only going to be based on our choices through the guidance. So these are things that are set in stone that we are going to go through in our lives. That we can have very little change over. And that's the difference between the majors and the minors. I'm glad I remembered to bring that up because that's very important
Yeah.
to know.
Okay.
That's why I'm writing things down. There's so much to talk about. I have to make sure it's all written down. Annie goes crazy. All right. So now with this higher learning, we come with sixes. Now with sixes in numerology, it's all about healing. It's all about a new normal, new traditions, new ways of doing things. It's all about a new community, communications, harmony, healing, balance, rejuvenation from that hard time from the fives, from all of those things, coming out of that and coming more into kind of like a more harmonious place for yourself, and just allowing yourself to kind of like slow things down and just kind of like absorb and kind of start kind of making this new normal your normal, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that's what sixes are numerology wise. Now with sixes we see is the lover. Now what Mr. Waite did is, this is another change he did. You'll see, and if you're using the Rider Waite card, you'll see the lovers, and you are going to see this image. Traditionally, it is the lover. I'm going to get into this. Is like this. Now you'll see one woman is older, one woman is younger, and there's the man. Ignore that he doesn't have pants on. Some are say he has pants on, so I don't know. I guess he's ready.
Yeah, but that's for a whole different show.
Right? So here with the lovers, it's all about choices, okay? Duality and choices, and the choices that we have to make. Now here, this is one thing I don't like that Waite changed this image a little too much about, and I don't like that because he only depicted the lovers literally, and in spirit, this is what could be, which is not only what the duality of opposites coming together, but this is also the baby that could be from them, so that fertility and growth from their relationship and the choices that can happen. Now, what it really is, though, about these choices is a transition, like how I just said with sixes. You see how numerology-wise, that gets confusing, right, what I just said here? That
Hmm.
was a little confusing with Waite. But the actual with sixes, this tradition is getting in the sense of the new normal, and traditionally, this is the handoff from mother to wife. This going from son to husband, making that change. Okay, and that's what it is. That transformation, that it's a huge transition. Okay, and it's all about the choices you make as you progress through here. Whether it's going to be kind, sour, bitter, happy, it's going to be about your decisions as this transition is happening. However, this is a transition, and as we see with the mountains, that's also going to have obstacles. It's always going to have the obstacles here, okay, as we see. Whenever you see the mountains, as I said, it's always going to be obstacles, but there's also going to be a lot of growth. There's also going to be a lot of temptations. There's going to be a lot of things coming in and flourishing, but it's also important to keep yourself open to those things and remember that it's all about the choices that you make on how you go forward from here.
Grizz is asking if this card is like uh, a representation of like Adam and Eve.
Yeah, see, that's what Waite did with it. So what Waite did is he went into, because you have to understand, like Crowley with the Thoth deck and Waite with his deck, what they did is they were in the Golden Dawn, so they had these secret organization, occult ideas put in there. So what they did is they were very Christiany in their thing also. Like a lot of methodical beliefs from Bible came in, and so that's why you see that. And with the temptation you see the snake, just like Adam and Eve. You see that. So that's how he decided to depict that card. But again, like when you see these images, now Rider Waite is how I learned. It's how everyone learns. It's how you should always learn, because it's easy with the minors because they're not pippish where it's just there's actual images on it. So it makes it easier for you to learn. But once you progress, you'll see what I mean. You'll see what I mean. As you start progressing and getting really good at your readings and intuitive and, you know, knowing the history of all of these things and being good at your numerology, you're going to look at, like, you're going to start kind of looking at weight stuff and being like, this is kind of like confusing a little bit. Like, it kind of doesn't make sense with the image. Because also the images keep your intuition kind of locked on one meaning.
Mm.
You know, when you don't have certain images only, like especially with the minors, which we're going to get into, but you know, with that, like it kind of puts only one meaning. And these cards, as you see, I've given you multiple meanings for each card because these cards don't have only one meaning to them. You know, they
Right,
have so many meanings,
right.
you know. And then, you know, we haven't even gotten to, you know, when you're actually doing the reading and the cards are actually mixed and the messages are coming in together, how many different meanings they can have then, you know. So it's like that expansion that you need. That's why I want to teach it with numerology, putting into it too, with all of these things, because I think it's really important and very helpful to understand like what everything means and why it's there. Now, another thing with the lovers, it could literally mean duality, and it could also literally mean marriage. This could literally mean a marriage that is to come. Like, for example, if you see the lovers card with like I know we haven't gotten to the minors yet, but like with the Four of Wands, that's like, you know, you can pretty much be like, oh, is there someone getting married? You know, you can ask the client, like, is there someone getting married? Are you getting married? Like, is there some kind of a celebration pertaining to marriage? Maybe an anniversary, like, you know, something pertaining to a love, romance, relationship. So, because, you know, that's the cards will always tell you, you know, you'll understand. But it's all about all of those choices and those dualities, things coming together with your, and also big about relationships, those dualities within your relationships, those energies circulating within your relationships, the choices you're making within your relationship when those temptations are coming in. It's all about those things, all wrapped up into one card.
I'm gonna interrupt you for just a second.
Please go for it.
Before we continue, Grizz had a question about. I don't know if you can see this little tree in the background.
Oh, that's not a tree. That is Pamela Coleman Smith's signature.
That's what she was asking about. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
She's asked if that
Yes. You will
was the
see
author's
that
mark.
on all. Yes, that's the author's mark. That is on every single one of her cards. So you will see that on every single card. Yes.
Good
Yeah,
catch.
that's Pamela Coleman Smith. Pixie.
Good catch.
Everyone
Secondly,
always thinks that that's like a bush or a tree or something. I think that's funny.
I think it's her signature. If
It
you
does
like,
look like it though.
it's written this way. If you look at
Mm-hmm.
it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It
So
always differs, but it's always there somehow.
we are about one third the way of going through the major arcana, however you
Yep.
want to pronounce it, cards. this is a good time to kind of interject. Tonight we are here with Annie G, AIM Readings on Instagram, also on YouTube as our guest. She is one of the tutors for our program that we are putting together at Tarot Academy. If you'd like to be part of this Tarot Academy, we are taking registration. Please message me on Instagram here, the only elephant in the room. We can get you registered. We want to make sure you have everything you need as far as like a deck. So make sure you have that prepared. And classes will not be online. Tonight is very special. We are doing this as an introduction for our academy. It is a 6-month program that we're looking at. There could be fees that will be asked for the program itself. It'll be like an official program down the line when we have the all the other tutors and teachers set up. So that's something we're looking forward to doing. We've been wanting to create this for a while, and tonight is our kind of a soft opening or a kickoff of what we're doing. And I asked Annie to be one of our first tutors, our first tutor actually, and to come on live to share with us tonight. Again, AIM Readings, Annie G on YouTube and on Instagram. Um, we are learning about tarot tonight. And I asked because my partner Grizz, J Tiger, who is in chat, as well as myself, have been wanting to do this for a very long time. So sit back, relax, enjoy the program, enjoy our podcast tonight, enjoy our show. Take notes if you need to. Make sure you invite your friends. Make sure you follow myself, the only elephant in the room, and our YouTube channel, same, only elephant in the room, and J Tiger, my partner Grizz. With that, we're going to continue with the next set of 7 cards for the Major Arcana cards. And tonight we are using the Rider White cards. I think this is a card deck that everyone begins and starts out with.
It
And
sure is.
I'm kind of excited because a lot of the notes that I've taken, so I took 30 pages of notes, kind of like
Honestly,
you when
Luca,
you did
you're
our
gonna look
research.
at that in a year and you're gonna laugh at yourself. Because I did the same thing. That's why I say that. I look back when I find my old notebooks and
Yeah.
I see it and I read it, I freaking crack up at myself. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, why did I feel like I had to write all of this down? Like,
I don't know. I guess
trust me, in a year you're gonna laugh.
I guess
I
for
promise.
me, I'm a little bit of a person who needs tangible, or
Mm-hmm.
something needs to be tangible for me, and then for me, my brain can process it if I have it written down. But maybe, yeah,
That's
in
true.
a year, I'll look at it and go, shit,
There's
I
a
didn't
true
need these
power
notes.
in writing things down. You're right.
I think not only that, but for me, it was a way of keeping my brain healthy, keeping my
Mm-hmm.
mind healthy. As
That's
we
true. Yeah,
age, we tend to process things slower. We tend to understand things
that's true.
slower. We tend to actually make sense of things a lot slower. And I'm seeing that within my own family, people who are aging in my family. Um, and I wanted to make sure I kind of keep my brain fresh. I try and do a lot of writing, I try and do a lot of reading. And I think for me, using these cards, whether I do readings publicly or not, whether I just do them for myself, and again, tarot is what we're doing here tonight is meant for entertainment purposes only. Please make sure you understand that. We are not here to give answers to your questions that you might have. We don't want that liability here. Again, we are just learning a form of using a certain type of tool to help us understand things of the spiritual realm in our life and how we exist with it, and just give us a little bit of an insight. Whether or not you understand or accept these cards, it's totally up to you. And if that's the case, then this is not the podcast for you. You're welcome to skip out. But thank you for being here. Thank you for staying with us. Annie G, we are heading back to you. Our last card was number 60, Lover's card.
The
I'm
lover.
not sure what else you had to say about the Lover's card, but let's continue on our next 7 or so cards, and then we'll take another break if that's okay.
Let's do it. All
Okay.
right, so let me just make sure I did not miss anything important with sixes. So lovers, the main thing to remember is just it's about that transition, that change, that duality, that in that transition, the choices that you're making.
Okay.
So it's very important to remember that. So I know weight kind of goes off with that image, but don't let those images be like set in stone for you and your intuition. Okay, that is why we're learning the way we're learning here, and that's why this is the way you're going to learn from me, because the way you're going to learn from me is you're going to be able to read with any deck. It's not going to matter if it's a weight or the Marseille. Those what we call the Marseille, for example, with the minors, they don't have any images. That's just how old decks have always been. We call that pip style. We'll be getting all into that. Don't worry. But those pip style decks are not going to be so threatening to like when we're new. It's very threatening and scary. Like, oh my God, how am I going to ever be able to read that? I'm never going to be able to read that. But you are going to expand. You are going to be able to do all of those things, and just don't be hard on yourself.
Okay.
So let's see, with the sixes, yes. Oh, so that separation I was talking about. So it's about, so that separation, I'm going to show the Marseille one because it depicts it better. So that separation, when I was saying going that transition from son to husband, or from daughter to wife, or whatever that transition is, going through that is that separation through. So it's remembering a creation is happening through that separation. So that's not something, this is not a bad transition. This is not a bad change. This is something that's good. This is something positive. We're not in the dark night of the soul yet in the tarot. We're about to get there. But this is still good stuff. This is the beginning. This is, this is fresh things. This is good. This is choices. These are relationships. These are not hard things, but for some people, it is, right? For some people, it can be. So that's what it's all about. And that's why I say the spread will always tell you. That's why spreads, having an actual spread where there's positions and the positions are for a reason. But that's
Mhm.
because it's like you read a book. When you pick up a book, it's like you don't read it backwards and then expect for it to make sense. You read it how it should be read, right? That's how the
Yeah.
tarot is. So the spreads are putting the cards are words, and the spreads turn those words into sentences for you then to read to your client or to get that understanding. Okay, that's how I see it, and that's how I will always tell everyone to look at it, because that is literally what's happening. You're reading it. You're reading it like a sentence, and what allows you to read the spread, what allows you to read the reading is the spread.
So you
That's
would
what's allowing you to do
read
that.
left to right. You would read left to right. Okay.
Exactly. And there's different spreads. So we could even get into that. I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of different spreads. There's like the Celtic cross, there's the 3-card spread, there's the cross spread, there's so many spreads. And it's all about just finding what everyone works for you. Okay. There
Mhm.
are even spreads back in the day when tarot was like, a rare thing. They would freaking use the whole
I can
deck.
imagine. I can imagine.
I can't
Yeah.
till today. I'm still like, oh my God, how long were those readings? Can you imagine? Okay, so reading 78 cards in a spread? I'm like, okay, no.
It's like those
A Celtic
YouTube
Cross takes
videos you
like an
see.
hour,
You
and
see
that's
the
like 10 cards.
segue. Yeah, it's like the segue in a YouTube video where you hear SpongeBob's voice say 1 hour later or 3 days
Right?
later, and then you get to like the fifth card and stuff like that.
That's
Grizz
so
had a
true.
question.
Yes.
Grizz had a question. Can you repeat what you said? It means after you said duality, talking about the lovers card. You were talking about the duality in the lovers card. 6 hours reading. Yeah, Grizz. Grizz, what was your question more specifically about the duality?
Duality, packs, choices. What else did I say? Balance, transition,
Harmony,
transformation,
partnership. Yep.
harmony, partnership, yes, with your relationships, a huge transition, like I said, for example, from whether, whoever, like it's a daughter or a son going from child to, being a spouse, things like that, huge transitions in your life. But these are huge transitions that are for a good thing. This, like I said, we are one card away from getting into the dark night of the soul, so we're not at the hard part yet.
Okay, she said you answered it. She said you
Oh,
answered
okay,
it.
cool. All right, cool. Okay.
All right.
I was like, okay, what else did I say? Oh my God. I know it's a lot of information. So if I just go too fast, just let us know. The messages are the phone's a little far away from me. So Luca will let me know, hopefully, if anyone has a question or is telling me to shut up and slow down.
No, you're doing fine.
So
You're
with
doing
that,
absolutely fine.
So with that duality, with that huge transition in our lives that we are going through comes the Chariot, comes the number 7. Now, with number sevens are a huge card about gaining a new wisdom, okay? It's all about self-reflection, readjustments, okay? Research, fine-tuning. I'm going to talk slow because I know you guys are writing. I'm going to say that again just in case. Reflection, readjustments, fine-tuning yourself, your actions, things that need to be fine-tuned, being able to look back at everything, like the progress and everything that you've done, and fine-tuning those things, whatever needs to be fine-tuned. Is it a thought? Is it again, the cards will tell you, is it a thought? Is it an emotion? Is it an ambition? Is it a direction? Is it, what is it? The spread will always tell you, okay? That's why I say the card itself, it's like a word, and the spread puts those words into sentences to make more sense. So that's why you learn the meanings and stuff, and then you can only learn so much. Take it from me, I spent almost 7 years behind books and books and books and books and books and this author and that author and this legitimate person and that legitimate person. You don't need it. Okay? Don't give yourself that headache,
Good, because
okay?
I don't have the
Very helpful.
time.
But you know what? I'm here, okay? And
Yeah.
I've done that research for you, okay? Like, I mean, you don't need to, you don't need it. And it's also like a lot of information overload too, because it's like there's so many, after you get through the actual system, there's so many opinions, there's so many different things, there's so many different ways intuitively, and it's just like, phew. When you're new, it's overwhelming. And it could definitely be kind of stressful. And when you do feel like it's getting stressful, just take a step back. Give yourself a day or two to take a breath away from the cards and come back to it, with a fresh set of eyes and mind. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed, because this is a fun process of self-growth, self-learning, and it's a spiritual journey, and it's not meant to be stressful. Okay, so just, it's not easy, and it's going to take time, but it's okay. Everything good and worth it takes time.
True. Very true. Very true.
So now with the Chariot, I was saying the number 7. So reassessments, okay, fine tuning yourself, okay, so being grounded, warning yourself, being able to listen to those warnings about the things that you've experienced, right? The things you already know, not to repeat those things. So that wisdom that you've already gained by the time you've gotten here, to have the direction to go forward, okay? And that's why we see the horses here, and that is, the horses are there to make sure that you're being guided in one way. That your horses are basically like your head. It's like your mind. It's like your intuition, in which way it's being pulled. And it can definitely go into 2 directions, which is why, like in the Waitsmith, you see the sphinxes, and
Right.
normal other decks, it's horses, whatever it may be, it doesn't matter. But that's what the symbolism of that is, okay? So it's like the idea that you can be pulled in 2 different directions. And that's another thing I don't like about why Waite wanted them to be, because, Waite didn't give Pamela Coleman Smith fluidity. I mean, he gave her some fluidity and freedom in her artwork, but he was very controlling at the same time. I know this because I read books about them and stuff, and seen the books have like their own notes and stuff written, like pictures of their own journals and stuff. So, I mean, he was kind of like a dick to her. Like, he didn't really give her that. So I don't know why he chose to have them just sitting there. Like, they're not showing any movement. And that bothers me, that they, because
Isn't
this
this
is
a
a
card of
movement
action?
card.
Right.
Exactly what I was about to say. It's a movement, action-oriented card. And it's like stillness. It doesn't make sense. They need to be up. They need to be moving because like I said, those are representing your mind and how it could be pulled into the directions when there's also a lot of opportunities coming in, or when you're starting to get into that new normal. Okay, as we saw with the sixes, that transitioning, you're starting to get your footing, and it's easy for you to lose track, right? It's easy for you to get lost and to be pulled into different directions, and that's a warning. That's a warning to not do that. To make sure that what you're doing, you have a steady mind on the future. Okay, that four that we went through, in our soul's journey already, that process of that stability, that structure. We're learning how to bring that emperor into light here in our direction, in the chariot now. We're bringing that leadership qualities within us to keep our mind steady and focused, and to not let other stupid things let ourselves lose our focus. Okay, and that's an important message about the chariot. Let's see, what else I need to get through with the chariot? Um, yes, manifestation. Oh yeah, this is also seen as literally manifestation of life itself in all ways. Literally, because this is like a very action oriented card, right? This is all about action, going forward, moving forward, all about those things. So it's literally about bringing in your what you want to be existing and manifesting into it by your actions.
So like
Literally life itself,
success,
right?
like
Because
success.
exactly, it's
Yeah.
life itself, right? Because all things come through action. Nothing comes from just sitting on your ass. So that's
Right.
where it comes from. So it's also
Except the
about
big ass. I shouldn't
yeah.
have said that. Oh my God, that is
No,
so
it's true
way off topic.
though.
My apologies. We gotta bleep that one out.
No, no, not even. No, but now when I say like mastering yourself in your life, I mean mastering yourself, your
Mhm.
direction, yourself, tuning yourself and being adaptable. Now, being adaptable is a huge thing with the chariot, okay? You have to be adaptable through that change, which is what we learn in the Empress card in the threes. That creativity, that futuristic, that, thinking, that where do we see that stability that needs to come and shine, right? That expansion that was happening, that fluidity that needs to happen with that expansion. We are now putting that in and staying fluid within our direction. And that's really important with the number sevens. Now, that then brings us now here, we see the strength. In my deck, it is the justice card, but we will stick with strength.
Okay.
All right, so we see strength, okay? We come into our strength, and the justice, we come into our truth, okay? So this is about coming into your truth with the number eights. Number eights are about having the strength to go through your endeavors, okay? Manifestation, accomplishment, strength, mastering things, putting yourself into work, doing all of those things. And it's also just having that inner strength which creates those possibilities, that infinite possibilities, that number 8 symbol you see, that's the infinite possibility symbol. Whenever you see that, that's infinite possibilities, new things throughout the obstacles, which again, you see mountains. Through those obstacles, you are going through it with your strength. You are standing in your strength. You are finding your internal strength as you are proceeding through. And that is what it's all about. That is what it's all pertaining to. But with the number eights, it's again strength and mastering things. You're putting them into work, but it's also about truths. It's also about the laws of nature. So it's also about you understand that as you're getting into your strength, there are laws of nature that we can't hide from, we can't get away from, and that's what that is. So as we get into that, our soul comes. Now we come into the dark night of the soul. Now we come to the place in our lives where things are not going to be so good. This is where we're going to go through some hard times. And this is where, we're really going to be tested in our journey, where the fool is now coming into his dark night of his soul, into with the hermit. If I can take the hermit out, that'd be great. Uh-huh.
So
I have so many cards out.
I noticed as we went through the first 8 cards, actually, yeah, eight. 8 cards. The backgrounds are a little bit lighter in color. They're a little bit more, I guess the message itself would be a little bit lighter. The feeling, the
Hmm.
energy, the vibe that I'm feeling. And now that you bring it up that this is a little bit more darker, maybe more heavier, the cards that are coming up starting with the Hermit, which is a number 9 card, even the whole energy behind the cards that I'm looking at. So I have them now laid out in front of me. It's just a
Nice.
little bit darker, a little bit different. The energy itself feels a little bit different. We started out on the 0 card where the energy felt really fresh and the new and exciting and moving on. And then we come to this point where we're in a little darker space and it gets a little bit heavier and then it brings it back again to a very lighter place from what
Yes,
I've
that's
seen with the
exactly
card.
what it is.
Okay.
Yes, that's exactly what's going on. That's exactly what's going on. And I love that you're noticing that because that's what it's all about. Putting the cards out in front of you. Like no one told me to do any of those things, you know? So that's why I'm telling you guys, do these things. Like lay them out in front of you because you see it. You see the soul's journey with the cards when you do that. And same with the minors. When we get to the minors, we're going to be laying them out, you know, but in a more organized way. You know, so you're going to be able to see these synchronizations within the cards,
Okay.
within the story. You're going to see those things. And you don't see them when you're just shuffling. You're going to see it when you lay them out in order as they were meant to be read, right? Or not read, but shown, you know, like laid out. It's the story, it's our journey. So, yes, this is where with the hermit, yes, this is where we get to the harder parts.
Okay,
This is
before you
where,
continue, Annie,
yes,
before
of
you
course.
continue, I do apologize.
No, don't be sorry.
I do want to make sure that we don't get cut off because the last time Instagram cut us off, because I think we went to 3 hours or so. So
Oh,
we're going
damn.
to do that. We're going to go to the 11th card. We're going to take a little breather. We're going to go do a little potty bath and break and stuff like that. I'm going to log back on, and we're going to go part 2.
All right, cool. We could do that.
Okay? So
We
we
could
can
do
do
that.
that just to kind of give you a heads up of what might be coming up. So I just want to
How
make
long
sure we
has it
don't get
been
cut
so
off.
far?
Only about an hour and a half. No, going
Okay.
on to 2 hours now. Going on to
Yeah,
two
I
hours, but
told you the classes usually will go 2 hours usually,
and that's cool.
minimum. I
I
told you. I pretty much have seen that's all the classes, 2 hours, 2 hours. You see how much info.
Yeah. Well, I'm eating it up. I'm loving it. I'm really loving it, and I do appreciate you taking out that time to really put all these notes
No, I
together.
love this because it's also like, um, what do you call it? Like refreshing my shit, you
Mm,
know, like remembering
yeah,
all of
yeah.
that.
But I think it's too important for us to get cut off midway, and I don't want it to happen. So we'll take maybe a
Right?
3-minute breather or something like that, do a potty break, refresh our
Or we could
drinks.
even do
For the,
that now. Do you want to do that now
I
before we
think
get into the dark night of the soul?
we could. I mean, is there something we can? I don't know. Maybe we can. Well, maybe we can do that. I wouldn't mind doing that. Just to
Yeah, and then when we
kind
come
of
back,
make sure we
we
don't
could
get cut
start.
off. Okay, so just to close out part 1 of what we're doing tonight, we are learning the tarot. We are here with one of our community members, one of our senior community members, and now a teacher, one of our first teachers for our Tarot Academy. If you're looking for a safe place to learn about tarot, to learn to maybe be a tarot reader, and again, it is for entertainment purposes only. Um, we have these classes coming up. We have different teachers and tutors that will be helping us with this academy. Message me if you'd like to be part of the academy, to register, be part of the academy. I will give you some of the information. This is an introduction. This is a very special occasion tonight